Hello there, welcome back to my channel. This is my second video on this channel and the first one was a long time ago. So if you're one of the viewers of the first video, welcome back. The reason it's been a while since I made my first video is because I really want my content to be stuff that I would find really valuable. So I kind of come across these things that I'm like, oh, I wish someone had done a video like this, and then I think, well, I'll make that then. So this video is on everything I think you need to know before you buy a Cricut mug press, because I bought mine about a month ago. I absolutely love it, but there are certainly things that I wish I knew before I bought it. So I'm going to take you through about 20, I think maybe 21 things that you should probably know before you buy a mug press. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So let's get the most obvious one out of the way, and that's what comes in the box. Not a lot, if I'm honest. So you obviously get the mug press in the box. You get a little pack of paperwork, and that's stuck to the top inside of the box, and that's just got in it some really basic setup instructions. It's got a sheet of safety information, which is probably worth giving a read, and it's got your warranty sheet as well. Other things that come in the box are a power adapter. Now in the British version, I don't know if this is the same for the American version, but it comes with both the British and the American plugs. And finally, you get a USB cable in the box as well. It's also worth noting that that USB cable is quite short. It's the sort of cable that, it's like the old style small USB cable, you know, like really small. It used to charge Samsung phones and lots of different cameras. So it's that sort of cable. You've probably got one knocking around already if you have old phone cables and whatever knocking around. But worth noting, you do get one in the box. Number 2, you're probably going to need an easy press heat mat or one of the alternatives that you can get. I'll come on to why in a bit, because we're about to go through the process of making a mug together. This is the first mug that I made as I was unboxing and using this for the first time. Something that might be worth noting if you've got a very specific place where you plan to store your mug press is how big is it? Well, it's about 27.5 centimeters long, and it's about 16.5 centimeters tall if you include the feet. So it's going to fit inside a Kallax unit from IKEA quite easily, and the alternatives that you can get from like B&Q and B&M, if they've got that 30 centimeter shelf width and depth, it's going to fit in those quite easily. Number 4 is, while the box is completely made out of cardboard, inside the box, the unit itself, the mug press, is covered in cellophane, and printed all over that is your instructions to tell you to go and activate it online. Which brings us nicely on to number 5, which is you need a real computer to register this. So if you use your Cricut all the time with your iPad or your iPhone, you do need to plug the mug press into an actual computer just once to activate it. Number 6 is the activation process, which to be fair is really simple. It sends you straight to the app, or it did on my Mac anyway. When you're there, you're going to select from the left hand sidebar that you want to set up a new product, selecting new product setup. Then from your options, you're going to select heat press. Then after that, you're going to get another 2 options, and from that you need to select mug press. Then it's going to take you through some safety information. It's going to tell you to use this on a heat-proof surface, like your heat press mat. It's going to tell you to use it in a well-ventilated space, and I would agree with that, because when you're making a mug, it starts to smell like burnt plastic. So it can be a bit heavy on the nose, so you might want to make sure you're well ventilated. And then it's going to give you the order in which to power it up. So it's going to tell you to plug it in, then turn it on, then plug in the USB cable and plug that into your computer. Then it's going to ask if you want to add this mug press to your Cricut ID as a new device, which we're going to go ahead and do. And now it's going to deliver any software and firmware updates to your mug press via that USB cable. And once that's done, you can disconnect it, and so far I haven't had to connect it again. So I think that's the only time you really have to connect it to a computer. Number 7, you might be wondering what materials you can actually use with the mug press. So according to Cricut's website, the only materials that you should use are their infusible ink transfer sheets and the infusible ink pens or markers on the laser copier paper, on any laser copier paper. The only base material that it says that you can use is a ceramic mug blank, which is perfectly fine. Number 8, Cricut gives you all the instructions on the steps that you need to take to fully complete a mug. So if you are wondering whether you'll be able to use this or not, maybe you're wondering if it's a little bit complex, it's really not. And certainly by the end of this video, you'll see that it's really not hard to make a mug. So if you stick with me, I'll show you every step to make a mug. Number 9, Cricut has pre-made templates for us to use in Design Space so that it's easier for us to make our mug designs. If you just type in mug setup into the search on the homepage of Cricut Design Space, you'll see 2 options here. One for using the pens or markers, or one's for using infusible ink sheets. So if you had any concerns about the sizing or how you would know where anything's going to sit on the mug, this is just going to help with that, and it just makes it so easy. Number 10, there are tons of different mug sizes that are going to fit in this. Cricut obviously advertise their own, which is the largest being a 15-ounce mug and the smallest being a 10-ounce stackable mug. But as long as it's got straight sides, I believe anything in between those 2 sizes will fit. So we're halfway through, we're at number 10 of 20 things that I think you should know before you buy a mug press. And I'm just going to show you here the process I went through to make my first mug. I promised I would make a mug for my husband, and he's a scientist, so I found this quote which says, "Every disaster movie starts with someone ignoring a scientist," which is apparently true. And all I want to do is print that on the front and the back of my mug, and I want to do this with infusible ink sheets, and the idea is that the mug will be taken up by the infusible ink sheet, but then the white space will be the text. What you'll also see there are those 3 little icons that look like little mugs, and what they're doing is they're depicting where on the mug that section of the design is. So this really helps you visualize where each section of your design will be when your Cricut has cut it out. But we need to hide those little mug icons, and they're on their own separate layer, so we need to hide those. Then we need to attach all of this together, and then we're going to send this to make it. That brings us to number 11, back on track with our 20 things you need to know. 21 things you need to know. I'll decide by the time I write the title for this video, and that is that you need to mirror every single design that you do that you're going to put onto a mug with infusible ink. If you don't, all of your text and all of your images will be the wrong way around when you come to print them onto your mug. The only situation where you wouldn't need to mirror is if you're using a symmetrical shape. So if you're just printing a square and that's all you're going to put on your mug, you don't need to mirror that. But if it's anything with text or images, you're going to have to mirror your design. Don't forget, please don't forget. So I'm happy with that, it's mirrored. I'm going to click confirm. It's going to send us through to the next page on the Cricut Design Space, where I'm just going to tell it that I'm using infusible ink sheets, and then I'm going to send this to cut. So I'm using this Pattern Galaxy infusible ink sheet that I've had for a little while now. I'm putting it down onto my mat, shiny side down, because it comes with a transfer sheet carrier, and that carrier needs to be down on the mat. And I'm just going to pop this into my machine, and while it's cutting, I just want to talk to you about the actual mugs for a second. Moving on with the list of things that you need to know before you buy a mug press, I just want to talk about the mugs. So I ordered some of the Cricut mugs so I could have a play around, and it's just worth noting these actually come, regardless of what size pack you order them in, they come in these little white boxes, which actually you could totally decorate if you wanted to. And added bonus, let's call it 12.5, there are actually a couple of designs on Design Space, I believe if you're an Access member, where you can actually just make your own boxes, which is also pretty cool. Though I really love that they come in their own individual boxes, so if you're gonna order them from Cricut, then at least you already have a box, which is brownie points if you ask me. Number 13, I ordered the 15-ounce mug, and this mug feels big. It's really weighty, feels like expensive for a mug. I don't know, what do expensive mugs feel like? You know what I mean. It's pretty tall, it's 11 centimeters tall and 8.5 centimeters across at the base, so it's a pretty big mug, but when I ordered, it's all they had in stock, so this is what I ordered. Number 14, If you didn't spot it just there, the bottom of every mug says Cricut on it. Now I understand that they've got to do their branding and that's fine, but it's just worth noting that if you don't want your customers to know how you make what you make, if you do this as a business, then you might want to buy your mug blanks from somewhere else. And as long as you get sublimation mugs, you should be fine. There's 1,000,001 companies out there that will sell you blank sublimation mugs, but if you don't want them to say Cricut on the bottom, then you're not going to be able to get them from Cricut, unfortunately. Number 15, to secure the mug in the mug press, you have to push down the lever on the right hand side of the mug or on the bottom of the screen as you see it here, and it's just worth noting that you actually have to put some serious weight behind that to put it down. It's not just an easy flip down. So I think just one thing worth noting, that you actually have to put some real pressure on that to squeeze your mug into the mug press. I do wonder if over time that becomes more and more slack, but so far I think I've actually made about 4 or 5 mugs now, still pretty stiff. So my design is cut out on my Cricut machine, so let's put this on a mug, shall we? It looks pretty good. I need to weed it, so I will spare you lots of footage of me weeding out all of these letters, which I completely regretted doing it this way around when I did it, but either way, worth noting here that when you do just cut the design that's already on Design Space, that template that's there for you to use, it does actually completely cut out the section that's going to be applied to the mug, which is pretty cool actually. You don't have to worry about peeling that off and then sticking it onto the mug, so it's nice that they have the different pressures in there so it knows to cut all the way around the design but not all the way through your letters in the middle. Moving on to number 16, you need to make sure before you press anything onto this mug that it is completely free of any dust or particles. So the best thing to do is to lint roller your mug all the way around a couple of times to make sure that it picks up any dust that you maybe can't see. Like here I've got a really bright light on, I'd never see any dust on this because it would just reflect the light. And then as an additional precaution, I also go around with a lint-free cloth because actually sometimes my lint roller leaves marks. So my lint roller is going to pick up all the dust and then my lint-free cloth is just going to get rid of any of those marks. Number 17. For best results, you need to make sure you've got 100% contact between your infusible ink sheet and the mug itself. So make sure that it's pressed on as fully as possible. I watched a couple of tutorials about how to do this right, and a lot of them show doing it the way that I've done it here, which is looking down on the mug. I was stood above my camera, so looking down on the mug and really pulling it tight around, and then using the 2 remaining sticky parts of transfer tape to stick it down to the mug. But you need to make sure that you've got 100% contact. So in addition to this, I grabbed hold of my brayer and just went around my mug, like quite heavy-handedly pushing the transfer tape down onto the mug itself. Number 18, we are nearly there, but if you're going to use any heatproof tape, you need to make sure that it does not overlap the actual design. The space between the heat, the design and the mug must be consistent at all times. So if you do need to use heatproof tape, which I did because I felt like the sticky bits at the end of the transfer tape weren't sticking enough, so I grabbed a bit of heatproof tape and just stuck them together at the end. But if you're going to do that, you need to make sure that it doesn't touch your design. Number 19, just a bit on timings. You need to wait for the machine to heat up before you use it, and that takes about 4 minutes. There's a light system on it and it'll beep at you when it's ready, so you're always going to know when it's ready. It'll also start to smell of things heating up, that notorious smell that I'm sure you'll recognise when you smell it. It's not gone wrong, that's just what happens when the element heats up. It gets so hot, I would definitely recommend standing it on your heatproof mat, your easy press mat, which leads us to number 20, which is how long it takes to make a mug. I started to time this. I put my mug in, I started it going, and then let my screen turn off. But at the end of the day, it takes about 6 minutes to make a mug, there or thereabouts. Not too bad, but again, there's a series of lights at the top and it will beep when it's done, and then you have to remove the mug immediately. Which leads us to number 21 and our final tip for the day, and that is that when your mug is done, it will be so unbelievably hot that you won't be able to touch any part of it with your bare hands except for the handle. So I would definitely recommend, once again, making sure you've got a heatproof mat or a properly heatproof surface to put the mug on, because it gets hotter than the machine feels on the outside. Very, very, very hot. It takes about 10 minutes, maybe even 15 minutes for the mug to get to a point where it's holdable with your bare hands, and that's the point at which I decided to take off the transfer sheet and the infusible ink sheet. And this is my finished product, and to be fair, for my very first mug, was properly chuffed with this. I felt like the lines were really crisp, there's no blurring going on. I felt like I had 100% contact and I couldn't see any white bits where there wasn't contact. So I just reckon if you just follow each of the instructions step by step, particularly while you're just getting used to it, making your first mug, then you'll have absolutely no issues with this machine. And that is it from me today. I really hope you enjoyed this video and found at least one of these points to be useful. If you did, let me know down in the comments which bit of this you didn't know and you're glad that you came to this video for. And also, if you think I missed a point, go ahead and put it in the comments so that people who get here after you have the added bonus of your experience too. If you did enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up, that really helps a teeny weeny channel like mine. And go ahead and hit subscribe for Cricut related videos or any sort of crafting related videos that I might come out with in the future. I hope you're having a great time wherever you are in the world, crafting away, and I will see you in my next video, whenever that will be. Bye for now.